If you're looking for a place to hang out, figure out where you can take the next step in your dairy farming business, then you're in the right spot. Welcome to the High Performance Herd podcast. Here we will inform you what you can do today to future-proof your business for tomorrow. A big thanks to our sponsors Fonterra, Idexx, Koru Diagnostics, TasHerd, Tasmanian Dairy Trust, Zoetis, NHIA, Datamars. I'm your host, Andrew Savage. Enjoy this episode of the High Performance Herd podcast wherever you may be listening. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and jump on our Facebook group, the High Performance Herd Project. Finding out which new technology is going to offer you the best return on investment for your farm is key in driving the bottom line for your dairy business. A market-leading company instrumental in offering clear gains and efficiencies in the ag tech space is Datamars Trutest. Here to explain how this innovative company is solving problems for dairy farms is Andy Irvine. Andy is the Regional Head for Smart Farming in New Zealand. Welcome to the High Performance Herd podcast, Andy, and tell us something about yourself that most people don't know.
Thanks, Andrew. So I was brought up in the Tasman area, the top of the South Island, on a sheep and beef farm. So I spent a lot of my time in the early years doing that, and about the last 15 years I've been working in the dairy industry.
That's pretty cool, and that's, I guess, one thing you and I have in common, being from that Tasman area originally, and I've ended up in Tasmania, and you're in Canterbury, is that right?
Yep, that's right, yep.
Good stuff.
Good place to come back and holiday, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, no, it's a good part of the world. Datamars Trutest has been around for a long time. Tell us about your company and what problems do you solve for dairy farmers?
Well, Datamars has a long history of providing data for farmers to help them make better decisions on farm and make their life easier, whether it be through a wearable device, scales, electric fencing, or a wand, to record mobs and do nape movements and the like. So, yeah, Datamars has a long history of being in the providing data for farmers to making better decisions.
I guess that's evolved quite significantly, and especially in the last decade with ag tech, and leading into wearable devices, which is your specialty. What does a wearable device do, and how does it work?
Okay, a wearable device has got clever algorithms that look at gestures and behaviours that happen with cows, and when you first put a device on, it takes a period of time to calibrate individually to that cow, about 3 to 5 days roughly, so it gives their own baseline, and then the collar is looking for changes in her behaviour, either a heat alert or a health alert if she's sick. Heat alert's quite easy to detect, where health is a bit more tricky because there's a lot more different, I guess, diseases and ailments that cows can get, and some cows show these in different ways, so it's a little bit more tricky to pick up. But again, a wearable device will pick up heat and a lot of health issues.
That's interesting, and the 3 to 5 days is probably a lot quicker than a lot of people might think.
Yep.
Your role says you're working mostly in this animal wearable space, and what do you think the main reason for farmers adopting these collars is?
Yeah, okay. Probably the two main challenges I see on New Zealand dairy farms is A, getting enough labour or having good staff, and B is getting cows and calf. And I see a wearable device doing both these things, making life easier for farmers, potentially integrating with a number of drafting gates, so you can milk your cows and the animals will draft automatically. The draft lists will be sent to a drafting gate, and then when at the end of milking, the animals being there ready to mate, tail painting and things like that, patches, you don't need to have them, and people standing up on the stand, monitoring cows on heat and things like that. You don't have to do that either, so that's making life easy there. And also, picking up silent heats and the like, and taking some guesswork away from your heat detection, especially from inexperienced staff. That can be a big factor for people, buying collars. And I guess extending AB as well, like a lot of guys are going no bull, so they doing their 10 to 12 weeks of mating, with no bulls, because they've got the collars to pick their cows, so no mating fatigue for farmers. Also, Mycoplasma bovis was an issue, so no disease, potentially bring diseases on farms through bulls and things like that. So, which is good. And also, using tactical semen, like beef semen in your lower, or your poor performing cows, and also short gestation, from those latter weeks of AB to bring your calving pattern forward, or tighten your calving pattern, I guess.
That's a lot of wins in one sentence.
Yeah.
Labour, bulls, animal health, all of those types of things. And you're seeing quite a big uptake of farmers using it for all of these, and I guess in particular going no bulls.
I think, no tail paint and no bulls and things like that, I think are easy wins. When farmers put on wearables, it takes them a little while to, understand the data and gain trust in the system, I guess, and that's with all wearables, I think. So support's crucial to talk farmers through that and look at the data and making sure that they're at ease, I guess. So, there's no one watching cows or picking cows, they're milking and, trusting the system and the drafting data doing the rest. So, just and having a good technical backup, tech support, in the background is crucial to this type of technology.
There'd be some farmers that possibly say you can't replicate a bull as far as detecting heats, but you've already mentioned these will even pick up silent heats. So I think, if you can replicate a bull without having 20, 30 bulls around the farm breaking fences and digging holes, and they cost a lot of money to buy, and they can eat some grass as well.
Yeah, they can. Yep. I guess when you're picking up heats through the collars, feedback from farmers that they are, getting animals that they haven't spotted themselves, because some farmers in the first year they'll tail paint just to get trust in the system and things like that. They don't have to, but they like to, and there's a number of cows that our system says they're on heat and there's no tail paint touched, things like that. So, and then technicians, AB technicians saying yes, they're definitely on heat. So, that's pretty reassuring to farmers that, potentially they'd miss those heats.
Yeah, there's some big gains there. And from a sustainability point of view, I guess, you've talked a lot about labour as well. I feel like, the environmental aspect is one part of sustainability, but staff, especially here in Australia, is probably the number one sustainability issue facing dairy farmers currently. So if you can solve that problem through animal wearables, that's massive. And speaking of wearables, there are different types of wearables. A lot of people are debating, maybe do we go, the ear tags maybe seem to be a little bit cheaper and affordable versus collars. What is the difference between ear tags and collars? Their advantages and disadvantages?
I guess the battery life is probably the biggest advantage or disadvantage, depending on how you look at it. So in a collar, battery life sort of 7 to 8 years. In an ear tag, it's about sort of 3 to 4 years. Ear tag is cheaper, but you don't quite get the life out of it. Quite the lifespan. But both are reusable, so you can reassign collars and ear tags to other animals if you cull them or they die or the like. So yeah,
I've heard of the potential for using tags in young stock. Have you got an outlook on that, what that looks like?
So we've got 1 or 2 farmers who are using, in their heifers, they're using an active tag or an ear tag, for heats and health, and while they're young stock up until they're 2-year-olds, and then they're taking those ear tags out and putting in the next generation coming through, and then they're allocating a collar to that heifer once she's a 2-year-old and comes into the main milking herd. So, there's a number of farmers doing that who have got wearables. Some are just putting straight collars on when they're younger and not transitioning that way, and other guys are doing ear tags, and because they're lasting 3 to 4 years, and you can just take them out and put them in a new animal. So there's more and more people doing that, looking at, especially more and more people doing AI on their heifers to make that, genetic gain a year earlier, shortening the generation interval. So yeah, I think more and more people will look at doing that going forward, because again, people short of staff, and you've got to draft them up and decide which ones are on heat each day, or if you're doing a synchrony, that's probably slightly different. But if people are picking them as they come on, then obviously a big time saver, and obviously more accurate than probably a human would do.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've heard sort of all horror stories about people putting KMRs and things on heifers and they eat them, and their whole program's gone out the window. So I guess it negates those types of issues, and I guess the potential again for heifers to have no balls, like you said, and manipulate the gestation length of that calving.
Yeah, definitely, and probably making a use unit again. I think shortening the generation interval. And there's talk of probably not just in New Zealand, but doing more with less. So if you can make genetic gain and your heifers a year earlier, then that's one way of doing more with less, I guess.
And I guess with the collars, we kind of imagine them being in the dairy and drafting gates and that type of thing. But you've sort of touched on heifers, which quite often might be on a runoff or something like that. Are you able to talk to how that works for wintering cows as well? Because I know there is the ability to monitor cows while they're off on adjustment, maybe on fodder beat, that type of thing. Have you had some experiences about what's happening in that space?
To read a collar, you need a gateway, which is a technical term, and it needs most wearable devices. The gateway needs power and internet. So you can have as long as you get cell phone coverage, you can have a data card in there. And if you haven't got power, you can do solar panels with batteries and the like. So have a number of farmers, do that, which is good because you're getting, data or full benefit of the data from collars, during the winter as well, and not just while they're on the milking platform. So, when you transition them onto fodder beat and things like that, and, picking cows that have slipped their calf potentially because they start cycling again and things like that over the winter. So, that's, gateway set up at runoffs, and that's more and more happening, or, we're young stockers and things like that. So, big benefit there.
Yeah, that is really big. And I guess the whole point of this sort of high performance herd project was really to show that these are more than just a heat detection device. And if you're thinking of investing, you've really got to think of the big picture throughout the whole lactation. And now you've touched on wintering as well. So you can get return on these every day of the year. And you did touch on the gateway, which is interesting. Yeah, how does this gateway work? And what is the future potential of these gateways?
There's different sort of gateways on the market, and depending on how they read, some just read in the direction they're facing, so that's directional, and they'll sort of read sort of 300 to 500 meters. Other ones read 360 degrees, so out to a kilometre, things like that. So, but the line of sight, so you if you've got hedges and things like that the gateways won't see through, so you've got to potentially take that into account as well. Setting up gateways around your farm or on your runoff, and have you got things that will hinder the line of sight, I guess. So that's something to bear in mind. And also having a good site survey before you put the gateways up so you're getting the best coverage on your farm or runoff that you can.
Yeah, that really makes sense. Here on the High Performance Herd Project farm, we had a gateway at the dairy. It's quite a big farm. There's 950 odd cows there. So we did find they were disappearing, and for best use over heat detection time, we've installed a second gateway on a centre pivot. So the electricians just put a 3-pin plug there for us, and we've actually got probably around about 80% of the farm in range now, so we can capture that heat detection day and night. Genetics Australia here put just a list together also for a mobile system, and you can just go to your local Sparky and say, here's a list of cords, batteries and panels I need. And you can just set up your own mobile unit like you mentioned. Yeah,
I've got a few guys who set it up on a motorbike trailer, so they can actually tow them around their solar panel, and got a data card so they can tow them, and they can take them to run off to over winter. So you could use them at your, on your main dairy farm, and then take them to run off, during winter and things like that. So we've done a few of those. So a good use of a gateway.
Yeah, no, that makes really good sense. I guess, you've offered quite a bit of value around what these collars can do and what they bring for farmers, especially around that labour saving piece. And I love the idea of not using any bulls. I think any farmer would be all over that like a rash. But I guess for farmers who are considering purchasing, or farmers that already have these collars, what is one key takeaway that you think people listening to this podcast today should come away with?
Yeah, I think, wearables give you access to good data, and also, things that you're probably not aware of. So I think using the data well, and it's probably not just from wearables too. It could be from a herd test, or a soil test, or anything like that. So farmers get a lot of data from different areas, and as I said, not just from wearables. So I think it's important that farmers use the data they're getting to make good business decisions. And I think if they don't understand it, ask for help. Whether it be from their consultant or vet, or the rep that sold them the product, or something like that. So they can there's a lot of data out there, and I think can help them be more profitable and make potentially better business decisions and make their life easier. That would probably be my take on that, I guess.
No, you've hit the nail on the head. And here at TasHerd, our local herd testing company, there'd be a lot of farmers that get their herd testing results and they they maybe look at the cell counts, and then the rest of it sits in the cupboard for the next, and the fat and protein, and that's where the goodies lie. And I feel like you said exactly, sometimes you might have to just reinvest a little bit in a consultant or someone that will give you massive bang for buck for that data. I mean, you've paid for it, so why not make the most of it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd agree.
If anyone wants to find out more about collars and wearables and what Datamars is up to, where should they head?
So if they head to dairy.farmingmadebetter.com, they can find out about the technology that Trutest Datamars does.
Dairy.farmingmadebetter.com.
Dairy.farmingmadebetter.com.
That's the one.
One word, that farming made better.
And also, I guess in particular, we're pretty excited to have Datamars collars on the cows on the High Performance Herd Project farm. So if you want some insights into what's happening on that project, then jump on the High Performance Herd Facebook group. There's an Instagram page and a YouTube channel. And what we're really trying to do is overlay, like you talked about, data, how collar data can collaborate with other information on the farm and really give you that best bang for buck.
Yep. Sounds good.
That's awesome. Thanks very much, Andy. Really appreciate you coming in and catching up with us today.
Yep. No, thanks very much, Andrew.
Good one. Cheers.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the High Performance Herd podcast. Thanks to the sponsors, Fonterra, Idexx, Koru Diagnostics, TasHerd, the Tasmanian Dairy Trust, Zoetis, NHIA, Datamars. Feel free to subscribe and review the podcast. Share it with your friends. The more, the merrier. Jump on Facebook, search the High Performance Herd Project, and you're very welcome to join the High Performance Herd private Facebook group. If you want to see a video of this podcast, jump on YouTube or www.highperformanceherd.com, where you'll see a link to these sponsors for more information on the High Performance Herd Project, which is a real-life dairy farm, spring block calving right here in Tassie. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.